morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Sterling. It's great to have you back on the channel. This show is being recorded for Sunday, March 24th, 2024. This is part two of the show being recorded for March 24th. For those who watch the channel, you know that we're splitting the shows into two different parts now to make them more consumable. Had total of 60 questions being reviewed here on the shows, coming from 500 questions on the community board. So this is part two of the show. For those of you to reach me, just go to sterlingpsychicmedium.com, look for the book a session tab. Very straightforward from there. So with no further ado, let's get going on part two of the show being recorded for March 24th, 2024. Good afternoon, Sterling. Will there be an effective vaccine or treatment against tick-borne diseases for people? Yes, within about 8 years from where we are now, there'll be a very effective vaccine for 6 different tick-borne diseases. So I'm not an expert, I'm not a doctor, but I'm being told 6 different tick-borne diseases. So I know like Spotty Mountain Fever, Rocky Mountain Spot Fever is one of them. And so that'll be here roughly in short order, if you consider, 8 years short order. But yeah, there will be. And it looks like my team's saying that scientists have already figured out how to change the gene structure on certain ticks. So it's starting with like modifying the genealogy on ticks and then leading to treatments for tick-borne diseases. 29, assuming the Democrats take control of the House and the Senate in 2024, along with Biden's reelection to a second term, will Congress finally codify Roe v. Wade so it will never be in danger of being overturned again? Yes, I see this whole process starting out in the beginning of 2025 and kind of, I guess, good success for codifying Roe v. Wade as we get out into 2025. So that's coming. 28, will Modi be reelected to his post at India? He's the prime minister. Yes, it appears he'll be reelected to, I guess, what is a third term. Looks like he'll be reelected. So they're telling me. 27, hi Sterling and team. Some states in Australia are experiencing high levels of youth crime. When the youth are arrested, they are back on the streets the next day, and they know they are untouchable. When will their crime sprees end? It looks like a good deal of these crimes are being done by, I don't know, 14 to 18-year-olds or 13 to 17-year-olds or something here. But it looks like there's not enough funding for youth programs or ways to kind of interact with social media. So it looks to me like there's programs, like government programs coming. I don't know, Victoria, Australia is a big area where this is happening. Here, Victoria. So there is funding coming, but it looks like we're another year to 2 years in process here for funding to come in to help with youth programs. And then somehow interacting with social media more so that I guess they get on top of some of this youth crime or the way it's being coordinated. So it's coming. You got about another, I'll give you 12 to 24 months here before this starts to turn around. 26, will there ever be a cure for pancreatic cancer? Yes, and I remember reading on this now almost a year ago that the first case or cured case of pancreatic cancer occurred in the UK using CRISPR technology. So they've already made some strides identifying the gene structure around that. So they already had a successful case. I think they're asking will there be a cure for it. There will be a cure for pancreatic cancer. And I have to tell you, this also comes up to me like 2032. Now, a number of the cures, the CRISPR cures, have come up in the year 2032. Whenever I ask my team about this, that's the beginning of another presidential year. It's interesting. I've read on this before too. I'm being reminded that's when, like, the U.S. will have a first female president, Democratic female president. So I can't help but wonder if all this is being tied together. I think a lot of development goes on for many years, but then like a big release of a lot of vaccines. And so pancreatic cancer there'll be a cure for that too. 25, there's a young man who sometimes sits in front of our Walmart in Missouri. He doesn't hold a sign asking for money, rarely raises his head up to look at people. He just sits by the door and rocks back and forth. Every time we see him, my wife becomes emotional and says, I just see Jesus every time I look at him, and I want to lay my hands on his head. By the time we get to the car, she is crying. Can you or your guides tell us anything about the young man and enlighten us as to why she has such a strong reaction to him? She doesn't react this way with anyone else. Your wife is an empath, an extreme empath, and actually part of what's on her life path is helping individuals that have these type of problems. So that's getting involved with like work with shelters, drug addicts. There's something going on here in your wife's life path. That's why she's resonating so strongly. So this is all part of her life path coming up. Say volunteer work. And that's why she's connecting with that, because it's almost like reminding her there's a deeper purpose in her soul that she's going to get connected with here in terms of her life's work. So she's an empath. That's why she's feeling that. And it's also connected with her life's work. Congratulations. 24, Sterling and team. President Biden wants to increase Social Security by $200 a month if he wins and the Democrats win the House and Senate. Will he actually get this passed? Yes, by early 2025, that will happen. Yes. 23, the Secret Service under 45's administration is under criminal investigation for the deletion of all text messages on cell phones on January 6th. Could you read on the investigation, and do you see any Secret Service agents being criminally prosecuted and found guilty of obstruction of justice or some other criminal charge? Yes, I see these investigations and charges coming up. So the investigations are already ongoing right now behind the scenes. I see half a dozen Secret Service individuals that are going to be charged, held accountable, and actually serve some jail or prison time here. So that's all coming up. You're going to start to hear about this toward the tail end of this year. 22. Hello, Sterling. Will the Supreme Court rule against the anti-immigration law SB 4 in Texas? Yes, it looks like they're going to rule against SB 4 because like there's too many unanswered questions, or it calls into question legality of certain things are being done. It looks like they'll rule against SB 4. And I don't recall now if that just came out of Texas. Is that right? Oh, they said in Texas. Yeah. But I'm being told the Supreme Court's going to rule against it because there's a lot of like loose ends and legalities that they can't justify. That's looks like that's what comes down in the short strokes. 21. About 15 years ago, I lived in Koreatown in Los Angeles in an apartment at the intersection of First Street and Normandy Avenue. Many strange things happened there. Pictures on the shelves were rotated, books would fly off shelves, and the bathroom doorknob would turn by itself even in front of guests. Other strange events happened as well. There was a floating gray smoke-like ball with silvery glitter swirling around it, and the appearance of 2 to 3 tall white beings made out of light. We were completely frozen and lost hours of time. What was going on in this apartment, and what did those beings want? These are all markings of interactions with extraterrestrials in that neighborhood. So there's some ET business going on in that neighborhood. Probably individuals they're following, but it's an agreement among families when extraterrestrials interact, because in many cases families are helping extraterrestrials. So a lot of extraterrestrial interaction in that area, along with some hybrids in that area and some family members or people that were, let's say, indigenous to that area. So you're right. That particular cross section was at Normandy Avenue and First Street. Must be a lot of history there because extraterrestrials are doing work there, and so are a lot of indigenous or some people that lived in that area a long, long time ago. So yeah, this is definitely a hotbed for spiritual and ET activity. Anybody that wants to investigate those things, that's probably a good area to go take a look at. 20. Are any of the witnesses and whistleblowers that oppose 45's cases in harm's way? 45's has been on a rampage at every rally, attacking people like Cassidy Hutchinson, etc. Well, yes. Unfortunately, many of them will be in harm's way, but it's things like swatting, having bank accounts seized or compromised, social media harassment. So that's being in harm's way. I don't see a loss of life, but I do see like swatting incidences going on. Yeah, so all these individuals need to consider ways to keep safe, whether getting extra security around them or being careful in other ways. So there's a harm factor here, but my team's talking about swatting and having bank accounts seized and social media harassment. Yes. 19. Sterling will Shrod Brown beat Bernie Moreno in the Ohio Senate election. Yes, it appears the Democrat is that Brown, Shrod Brown will win. So yeah, so Shrod Brown, the Democrat, will win, and it looks like he's been serving for a long time. I don't know, since 2007, 2008 or something. So looks like he'll win again, in spite of whatever success this other candidate, what's his name, Bernie, is having. It does not look like Bernie, is it Moreno will win the Ohio Senate election. No, be Sherrod Brown. 18. Sterling, within the last couple of years or so, I am woken up early in the morning and look at my bedroom ceiling and see graphic geometric shapes filling the space, and they are animated. In other words, changing shape and moving. Is this some sort of messaging I'm experiencing? If so, by whom? Is it a random occurrence? No, this is very clearly described what's called like the entrance to the Akashic records. Now, the Akashic records don't always look like that, but if there's something on your life path to work with the Akashic records, they'll actually start showing you images. So that's very characteristic of an appearance of an entrance to the Akashic records. And I recommend whoever asks this question, you start to work with your angelic team or somebody you trust, a professional, to work with your angelic team in creating access to the Akashic records. 17. On the last show, Sterling stated the next 2028 presidential or president elected would be a moderate Republican. What will be the composition of the House and Senate in 2028? I see both the House and the Senate, so Congress, having the majority will be held by the Democrats. So, very significant majority for House and Senate across Congress will be Democratic. And they keep telling me a more moderate Republican male, a man. So, take that. I mean, that's exactly what they're telling me here. So, there's really no other way to describe. They keep saying moderate Republican. 16. Hello, Sterling and friends. I was wondering if you might do a reading on AIPAC, the pro-Israel lobbying group who is set to spend hundreds of millions against the squad, AOC, Omar, and Presley, and Rashida Tlaib, is it? And progressives for calling for a ceasefire in the upcoming elections. Will they keep their seats? I do not see this organization, AIPAC, AIPAC. I don't see them being successful in the long run. It looks like all these individuals, I guess what they're referring to as a squad, will actually keep their position. So a lot of noise being made here. I'm sure that a lot of ads out, but it looks like the squad will all keep their seats. 15, Sterling and team. Why do we have to keep coming back to Earth to continually have ongoing lessons? Earth seems to be violent, aggressive, stressful, and in constant survival mode with fleeting moments of true joy. Why can't we live in the other realm in peace, love, and joy? Well, this is all part of the way the universe was designed, universal plan to create a little bit of refining fire, a little bit of strife to help strengthen us. It's analogous to the way there are techniques for strengthening steel or iron, different types of heating techniques. But it's really has a lot to do with the yin and yang of the universe, right? And the way that even when you're doing, let's say, weight training, it's that resistance training that helps build muscle. So the reason people come back so often is an elevation of the soul. It's a refining fire. It's putting that necessary resistance in front of you to get through it, to manage through it, to power through it, to take back your personal power, to stand in love and defeat whatever is kind of affecting you. So that's why a lot of people keep coming back. It's that constant desire universally to want to grow. It's not standing in a perfect environment for the rest of eternity. Unfortunately, there's no growth in doing that. So 14. When my daughter was young, she was scolded for writing her name on the wall in crayon. She claimed it was her imaginary friends Peter and Jenny that did it. This was her go-to answer for most mischievous things that occurred in her childhood. Today, she and I are very intuitive and in touch with our psychic gifts side. Did Peter and Jenny do the things she claimed? No, so it wasn't, it was actually your daughter that did this, but those were real spiritual entities. These were children that lived in that environment that didn't make it through childhood. So it looks like they were connected to your family in some way or indirect family. So it wasn't, what were the names here? Peter and Jenny. It wasn't Peter and Jenny that did the crayon work. It was your daughter. Sorry to tattle. But those, it looks like they were being encouraged. She was being encouraged by Peter and Jenny, which is kind of interesting. So there's a shared blame there. 13, hi, Sterling and team. This may sound silly, but what should someone do or say if they come into contact with an extraterrestrial or a Bigfoot? Should we run or try to communicate? You won't have any of this type of experience, I assure you, if it's not on your life path. You're not supposed to do work with extraterrestrial groups. So this won't ever be, this is a question that never needs to be answered. You won't come into contact unless it's on your life path and you're already doing work with them right now. Yeah, there's accidental Bigfoot sightings where they're doing shape shifting, but then individuals can never catch up with them or get photographs of them. And you won't ever have to worry about this. There won't be any opportunity if you have to run or have to communicate with them. Individuals on this planet right now are already working with extraterrestrial groups on a very purposeful manner on science, technology, world peace, health. So not to worry about it. 12, hollow Sterling and team. Society seems to deem marriage as the highest level of commitment. What do your guides say about marriage? Well, marriage or commitment of the souls is very important. So let me, if I look at the term marriage, some people associate it with the paper, the license, walking down the aisle. Many individuals never get the paper, walk down the aisle, but are in very committed relationships, a connection of the soul. That is a marriage. So yes, a commitment of the soul and marriage is important to humanity. And remember, these are all soulmates. As we go through our life path, people that we marry, many types of soulmates. Let me interject here. Some are spouses, some are boyfriends, girlfriends, some are bosses, some are best friends, many types of soulmates, but we're in marriage. Committed relationship with souls, with an important soul is on your life path, always teaches you an important lesson of the heart. 11, the GOP is planning to contest the election results when Biden wins. How long will it take to certify the presidential election? I think inherently we're going to know right away that Biden won the election, but it's going to take a few days, in order for some other certifications to happen, meaning the people are going to fight some results. They're going to have to go back and do a double check. It's the election in 2024. Unfortunately, they'll contest it for a long time after the election. But in terms of certifying, I think they're asking certify, right? Yeah, they're asking about certification. Certification will happen relatively quickly, but a lot of people still scream loudly that, it wasn't a fair election. So you can expect that ongoing, but Biden will be reelected. He'll win the popular vote. He'll win the electoral college vote as well. 10, hi, Sterling and team. Will there ever be an end to animal testing? This practice just breaks my heart. Yes, but it's going to be another 2 to 3 decades before it's fully stopped. So still see a lot of testing, unfortunately, on things like mice. Everything is part of the universe. But remember, animals are down here to help teach humanity lessons. And in some ways, like, for example, even those mice they're using for testing of some neurological drugs. That's part of their purpose in helping humanity. I know it's kind of hard to understand sometimes, but anyway, there'll be an evolution over the next 2 or 3 decades where a lot of animal testing won't be required. And my team is saying even maybe a little faster than that because we're going to start to use artificial intelligence. So you'll be able to an AI model, let's say, the entire human body or animal body and all the different scenarios and the way all the cells are constructed. Companies like NVIDIA are actually doing this right now, but you'll be able to have AI models so you won't have to do animal testing. You can actually run computer simulations to get the information you need, like the success of a drug or a vaccine. Nine in the countdown. What do you see happening to the future of the Heritage Foundation? Will they ever be able to implement the 2025 vision on either the USA, Canada, or other European nations? No, I do see that 20 Project 2025 will actually be put on a shelf and actually will start to die in the coming year. Well, meaning after the election, it'll still be around, but it'll never be implemented. My team's saying it's never gonna be able to get the teeth into society across the USA or Canada. There's a lot of right-wing politics that are going to start rising up in Canada, for example, but I don't see that they're saying that the Project 2025 complete vision is not going to play out. It'll actually be put on a shelf. Eight in the countdown. Hi, Sterling and team. Will Tennessee elect Democrats to the House and Senate this fall? Gloria Johnson is running against Marsha Blackburn in the Senate, and Heidi Campbell is running against Mark Green for a House seat. What do you see as the outcome? I see Gloria winning, but it looks like Heidi will be winning as mayor. Which one's Heidi Campbell in the Senate? Heidi Campbell running against Mark Green. It looks like, well, yeah, it looks like Heidi Campbell will win, and it looks like Gloria Johnson will win. So that's what they're telling me. That I know Gloria Johnson's a Democrat, and I forget. Sorry, with a Heidi Campbell, Mark Green, House seat. Anyway, sorry that they're telling me those are the names they're giving me as the winners. Seven, I used to have a great deal of faith in Merrick Garland. Now it appears he has been dragging his feet this whole time. Or is there more to the story? I pick up he lost his courage. He's still doing a lot of tremendous work behind the scenes, and a lot of work is being ready to be deployed into public. But he lost a lot of courage along the way, trying to look impartial. He tried to look so impartial, to say not having a Democratic organization going after a Republican organization, that he kind of lost some of his courage. But the fortunate thing is I see a lot of good behind the scenes work that's getting ready to be released, a lot of good detective background work that will lead to very significant cases. Six, and by the way, you're going to hear about that this year. Six, hi Sterling, can you please read on the U.S. job market? Layoffs are continuing and people are really struggling to find jobs due to so much competition within certain industries, specifically technology, media, and entertainment. Right now, the focus that's required is there's a little bit of a rough patch. It's true in some of these industries. But for example, with the CHIP Funding Act that Biden put in place, there's a lot of technology jobs coming into place. Like from Intel and what's HSMC, or it's the Taiwan chip manufacturing company with plants here. And in terms of the entertainment media industry, there's a bit of a metamorphosis going on here, a change where a lot of artificial intelligence will be used, a lot of generative AI producing content. So there's a shift here in the workforce. And so I would tell people across all these sectors is to take some of the time to try to retrain online courses, network of individuals and companies. There's a little bit of a transition phase going on, but a little bit of difficult. But as we get out into even actually the end of this year and even to 2025, I see more federal programs coming in to support all these industries. So it's going to help with cross-job training and other types of resources to help. So hang in there, stand tight. There's a metamorphosis. There's a big change going on across these industries. But as we get out in future years, the way entertainment's delivered, created, technology is used across 1,000 different areas using artificial intelligence, including we're just talking about, removing the need for animal testing. Lots going on here. So be prepared for the change, but do what you can right now to gravitate towards extra training. And sometimes, I'm sorry to say, that might mean taking a couple of extra jobs or something here short term, just to kind of keep everything, moving ahead. But it won't last that long. Everybody's asking that question. I see the industry being very prosperous starting out to the end of this year and then getting into 2025, all these industries. Five, hi Sterling and team. You've always seen a Biden-Trump ticket. Do you still see this? Absolutely. For the last 3 years, since 2021, my team has said that the party's nominees for the GOP would be 45 and the Democratic nominee would be Biden. Absolutely. So it's playing out now. And so I do see both candidates going through the election process, all the way through the election process. But again, Biden will be the winner. 4. In a previous reading, you mentioned CRISPR technology would be the game changer for Parkinson's patients. However, there are clinical trials starting this year of patients who receive their own implanted skin stem cells. They have been working on converting skin cells to, is it pluripotent stem cells for the last few years and finally received FDA approval to implant them in their brains. This technology is a game changer if it turns out to be successful. Can your guides comment on this new approach and if this will be a new way to deal with Parkinson's? Again, so not a doctor. My team is saying that the long-term cure will be CRISPR-based. However, short-term management of symptoms, slowing down symptoms, it looks like this stem cell therapy will be very helpful, what I call in the short term, over the next few years here, to curtail symptoms, slow down symptoms, kind of manage it, but not cure it. So hopefully that makes sense. See, the stem cell is not curing it. It'll be actually CRISPR gene editing technology that will actually cure it in the end. 3. Will the Chernobyl wolves, and that's the area of, Chernobyl wolves, really help science find a cancer cure since their immune system has adapted so well to that area? They seem to be even thriving or doing better than other animals in that radioactive environment. Yes, it looks like scientists will be able to determine what genes were mobilized or changed in the wolves that help them defeat some forms of cancer. So remember, solving cancer, there are many types of cancer across all species, Homo sapiens, sapien animals. And so it looks like scientists will be able to isolate one or a specific gene that was propagated in these wolves, these Chernobyl wolves, and then that'll be another piece to the puzzle to help humanity. And so these are all bits of information. Yes, it won't be a total cure, but it's a great piece of information. And number 2 and number 1, as we get to the end of the countdown, I always take notes before I start the show, so I'll go through those with you. Number 2, do you see anything coming up this week? New financing mechanisms being accessed by 45 and his legal team through offshore sources. So looks like this will come into play. There are a lot of things happening around the selling of the True Social platform, putting guarantees in place for the judgment out of New York, $454 million. But I do see we're gonna hear about financial strategies, information coming forward here. New members of Congress indicted for legal crimes while in office during the current session. Kind of interesting. So looks like there's some more congressmen coming out. And I do see also more GOP congressmen resign. Now, that's not going to happen just this week, but I've read on this before that I saw 2 to 3 additional GOP resigning early before their term was up. We just had a hot off the press. We saw another one that just resigned, and I think it was in Wisconsin, if I remember correctly. New drugs developed and cancer drugs, more drugs for dogs and animals. So more releases of new cancer drugs for dogs specifically and for animals. New Russia strikes against key targets in Ukraine, but I do see surprise attacks by Ukraine into Russia and Russian assets. Looks like a little more aggressive behavior here on behalf of Ukraine, although you may not know it right away, against Russian targets. So a lot of activity coming up this week. And number 1, the countdown. Do you have anything your guides want to share? Take time to ground yourself on a daily basis because this is important to remove all the energy you take in from the world's sources, including media, friends, and family. So on that note, that concludes part 2 of the show being recorded for today, Sunday, March 24, 2024. As always, if you need to reach me, go to sterlingpsychicmedium.com, look for the book a session tab. Again, I believe there's openings or time slots available in July, August, and September timeframe. Welcome to take a look online. As always, I'm going to send out a lot of goodwill and tremendous love to you and your families. Take care. I'll see you again very soon.